Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all so much for being here. Mr. Ambassador, one of the things that I hear about right at the top of the list at home is just the concern that we have all of this stuff going on overseas, but the administration just simply, for whatever reason, won't verbalize what's actually happening. And I'll give you an example. When the administration publicly responded to the beheading of 21 Egyptian Coptic Christians in Libya, they failed to mention that their faith, their religious belief, was the primary motivator of their murders. As the Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, can you explain why the administration simply refuses to call by name the religious persecution of Jews and Christians by ISIS? Again, that's just a basic, if we don't understand the problem and we don't identify the problem, we don't talk about it, I don't see how you can solve the problem.
The administration was absolutely clear that the cops, the people who were killed were cops, and that they were killed because of their religious identity. The controversy was about one time in, I think, an LA Times op-ed in which the president referred to it just as Christians, yeah, which also raises the religious identity as a defining aspect here. But he himself and others in the administration throughout the State Department had talked very openly about the fact these were cops, and we have spoken out on behalf of the Coptic community over and over and over again. It is a priority for me.
You agree then that they were killed because they were...
I think it's clear that that was the reason. I think it's clear that that's a reason. A lot of the minorities that they kill are killed because of their religious identity and belief, and that includes the Christian communities of the Near East and the Coptic community of those in Egypt who are working in Libya.
Good, because, you know, us on the committee, because of being on the committee, have traveled a lot. We've all been in the Middle East many, many times. And I don't think I've ever sat down with an ambassador or somebody in one of those countries that they wouldn't readily admit the same thing. I mean, this is just, you know, it's foolish not to tread so lightly. After Egypt and the United Arab Emirates carried out airstrikes in Libya in response to the beheading of 21 Coptic Christians, spokesman for the Department of Defense said that the U.S. did not support these efforts. Again, should we publicly be condemning our allies that are basically trying to support their people that of their country, again, trying to protect their religious beliefs?
That's a statement I'm not familiar with. You would have to address it to the Department of Defense.
But would you agree with that? Do you agree that we should come out and say, you know, that again, we don't support the Egyptians for trying to protect their people and their religious beliefs?
I think that Egypt should protect their citizens, their religious beliefs. I think Sisi, who has many problematic actions in the broader human rights field, has made some progress in terms of confronting extremism, extremist interpretations of Islam, and calling on Islamic religious leaders to begin to push back very hard about that. And he has been more open to the Coptic community than his predecessors, but there are still problems, and we are dealing with an ongoing basis with the Egyptian government over the problems that exist of the rights of the Coptic community to live openly and freely with equal protection in Egypt.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is it's not one thing. It's just thing after thing. The delay in your nomination, you know, the fact that that was vacant so long, the fact that we still don't have the special envoy to promote religious freedom of religious minorities. Again, and I think you would agree that lots of tiptoeing, you know, around these statements that come out as to what's going on. It's just one thing after another, and as a result, I think Americans are very, very concerned about, again, not identifying the problem and treading so lightly as to calling a spade a spade.
I think there's legitimacy to different narratives, and another narrative would be this president in India dealing with religious freedom as bluntly as he's done at the National Prayer Breakfast, being so forceful in terms of the imprimatur that the administration has given me to empower me in the work that I'm doing, the fact of how open the entire State Department has been to this religious freedom agenda as a crucial agenda, whether it is a change or just different things going on at the same time. I actually think there is a legitimate narrative that says that this is an administration, a Secretary of State, and a president that cares deeply about this issue of religious freedom.
Right. No, I understand. And yet, again, as I travel about Arkansas and other states, the average person hasn't understood that narrative.
If that's the case, then we have work to do to help bring what is a very real aspect of the work of the United States government more clearly to the American people. So I take that challenge seriously.
Thank you.
May I just 10 seconds to respond to the bishop and your colleague here? In addition to everything we've done on Uyghur Muslims and Tibetan Buddhists and the Falun Gong and all the other religious groups, in every report, and back to when I chaired the commission, and it's the first commission, everything that they have done, we have spoken out over and over again about the rights of the church to name its own bishops. We've spoken out on behalf of Bishop Ma. It has been a consistent message that we've done. So I want to reassure you that there's been a very strong positioning of the United States government on behalf of the rights of the Catholic community to choose to work with the Vatican as their organizing religious authority.
Okay, so I'm going to take my 15 seconds back that was. Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just close with a question for the bishop and Mr. Sekulow and Mr. Perkins. You all have highlighted various things about the United States' obligation under international and domestic law to uphold and protect our religious freedoms. If you just had one thing, a message to us as to what you feel like Congress needs to be doing, could you, talk to us for just a second about that?
Sure, and just reiterating the message as I visited the displaced persons in Kurdistan, I promised them that I would bring their stories back to the U.S. And so I hope to do that, and I brought their message here today: protection for the religious minorities in that part of the world, in Iraq, and aid, humanitarian aid, and development, health care, and education.
Senator, we would request that the committee and through the Congress amend the International Religious Freedom Act to include non-state actors, and that as part of that Section 405 would bar from entering the United States and freeze the assets of any government officials or their agents who have engaged in particular acts of religious persecution and violations, work with our European allies to ban from entry and freeze assets of government officials who have engaged in these type of activities. And I think that choking off the money would do a lot.
I would again say that today is a significant step forward in sending the message that the Senate, along with the House that's been holding hearings on related matters, is taking this serious. Now, in D.C., in the city of meetings, it might not mean a whole lot. Internationally, though, the fact that you have called a hearing on this topic is sending a strong message. In addition to what Mr. Sekulow says, I don't think we need new laws necessarily at this point, but I would urge you, as you hold further hearings on this, that you call members of the State Department forward, the Secretary, and just ask as to whether or not the International Religious Freedom Act is actually being followed. There's no evidence to suggest that it's being followed by the letter of the law.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.